My name is Catherine Kermode and this is my wild backyard. And what a beautiful autumn day. It's almost perfect. I'd like to share one of my favourite garden plants with you. This is a Grevillea scarlet moon and I love it because it is always covered in flowers and it's a staple in my garden for the honeybees. They just love it. Now at the moment there's a few less flowers in my garden, so the native sugarbag bees are also feeding in this Grevillea. They're taking advantage of the flowers when there's a few less in my garden. They're Tetragonula carbonaria and they're a social bee. They live in a hive, they make honey, so they're foraging for nectar which they're taking back to their hive to store for the winter. As I'm looking at the little native sugarbag bees in this shrub, I start to notice that there are lots of other native bees in amongst them. And there are a few different types of masked bee. One of them is a little black species with white face masks. Another one is a little black species with bright yellow markings. And there's another tiny wee little species that is much smaller than the other bees, that's iridescent green with two striking white stripes down its face. It's really exciting for me to find all these different species, and I need to look fairly hard to notice them. They're not obvious to start with, but once you look closely, you'll notice that their behaviour is quite different. The masked bees feed on nectar, but because it's full of moisture, it's really heavy and they've got no other way of carrying that on their bodies. So in order to be really efficient with their foraging, they concentrate that nectar while they're actually out and about. So if you watch them while they're flying around foraging, they'll stop and spend time blowing bubbles. And what they're doing is they're evaporating the moisture out of the nectar that they're collecting and concentrating it down into a really rich substance, which they can then easily take back to their nest. It makes it lighter to transport. They're really interesting species. They're found all around the world, but nowhere are they more diverse than here in Australia. And it might be that they've evolved alongside nectar-rich plants such as the eucalypts, which is why they've been so successful. What I would suggest if you want to find a masked bee is go out and look in amongst your plants where you've got bees foraging and take a really close look at those little native bees that are feeding in your flowers, because what you might find is that they're not all the same and that you actually have more diverse species that are feeding in your garden. In order to discover these incredible native bees, it can be as simple as planting one shrub such as this beautiful Grevillea. Not only do you get to enjoy the flowers, but you also get to discover more about the native species that rely on them.